Jake Morrison stared out the window of the starship and felt his stomach turn. The alien planet below looked like a giant crystal ball. Blue and purple lights danced across its surface like lightning frozen in time. He had studied pictures of this world for months, but seeing it with his own eyes was different. It was beautiful and scary at the same time. "First time seeing Zephyria?" asked Captain Lisa Chen as she walked up beside him. Her uniform was perfectly neat, as always. She looked calm, but Jake could see worry in her eyes. "Yes, ma'am," Jake said. He wiped his sweaty hands on his pants. "It's bigger than I thought it would be." "Everything about this mission is bigger than we thought," Lisa said. She looked at the planet, too. "The Zephyrians have been traveling between stars for over 1,000 years. We've barely left our own solar system. This meeting could change everything for humanity." Jake nodded. He was only 26 years old, but he was the best alien language expert Earth had. That was why he was here on the USS Heritage, flying toward the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. No pressure at all. The ship's speaker crackled to life. "All diplomatic team members report to Conference Room A. We will reach the Zephyrian station in 2 hours." Jake followed Captain Chen down the metal hallways of the ship. The USS Heritage was not a big ship, but it was the fastest one Earth had built. It had taken them 6 months to reach Zephyrian space, 6 months of studying alien languages and customs, trying to prepare for this moment. In the conference room, the rest of the team was already waiting. Henry Walsh, the chief diplomat, sat at the head of the table. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been doing this job for 30 years, but never with aliens before. "Listen up, everyone," Henry said as Jake and Lisa sat down. "In 2 hours, we will dock with the Zephyrian diplomatic station. This is the first time humans and Zephyrians will meet face to face. What we do today will be remembered for the next 100 years. Jake felt his heart beat faster. He looked around the table at the other team members. There was Dr. Betty Ross, the cultural expert. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who knew more about alien societies than anyone on Earth. Next to her sat Commander Paul Stone, the military advisor. He was a big man who looked like he could break a door with his bare hands. "Jake," Henry said, looking at him directly, "you've studied their language more than anyone. What should we expect?" Jake cleared his throat. "The Zephyrians communicate with musical tones and light patterns on their skin. Their language has 17 different emotional levels, but they almost never use the higher ones. They think showing strong emotions is rude." "Rude how?" Dr. Ross asked. "Like shouting in a library," Jake explained. "They believe strong emotions make people stupid. They value control above everything else." Henry frowned. "That could be a problem. Humans are not known for emotional control." "There's something else," Jake said. "Their society is built around ranks. Everyone has a specific place and they never step outside it. The person we're meeting, Princess Lyra Lai, is the Emperor's daughter. She speaks for the entire Zephyrian Empire." "No pressure," Commander Stone muttered. Captain Chen stood up and walked to the large screen on the wall. She pressed a button, and an image appeared. It showed a tall, thin figure that looked almost human, but not quite. The being's skin seemed to be made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Its face was beautiful but cold like a statue. "This is Princess Lyra Lai," Lisa said. "She's over 200 years old, but Zephyrians live much longer than humans. To them, she's still young. She has studied human culture for the past year, preparing for this meeting." Jake stared at the image. The princess was beautiful, but there was something sad about her eyes. Or maybe that was just how all Zephyrians looked. It was hard to tell emotions on an alien face. "Remember," Henry said, "we're here to negotiate a trade agreement. The Zephyrians have technology we need. Medicine that could cure diseases. Energy sources that could power our cities for centuries. In return, they want our art, our music, our stories. They say human creativity is unique." "Why do they want our art?" Jake asked. Dr. Ross answered. "We think it's because they've forgotten how to create emotional art. Everything they make is perfect but cold. They're curious about how humans can make beautiful things that make people feel strong emotions." The ship suddenly shook slightly. They were slowing down, getting ready to dock with the alien station. "All right, everyone," Henry said, standing up. "Remember the rules, be polite. Don't touch anything unless invited. Don't show strong emotions. And whatever you do, don't take their coldness personally. It's just their way." Jake gathered his translation equipment and followed the team toward the docking bay. His hands were shaking slightly. He had spent years learning to speak with aliens, but he had never actually met one. The docking bay was cold and gray. Through the thick windows, Jake could see the Zephyrian station. It looked like a giant flower made of crystal and metal. Lights moved through its petals like blood through veins. "Docking complete," announced the ship's computer. "Atmosphere is compatible. Gravity is at 95% Earth normal." The airlock door hissed open. Beyond it was a tunnel that led to the alien station. Jake could smell something like flowers and electricity in the air. "Here we go," Henry whispered. They walked through the tunnel in single file. Jake was last, carrying his translation gear and trying not to trip over his own feet. The tunnel was beautiful, made of some kind of transparent metal that showed the stars outside. At the end of the tunnel was another door. It opened without sound and they stepped into an alien world. The room beyond was huge and filled with soft-colored light. The walls seemed to be alive, covered in patterns that moved like slow water, and waiting for them in the center of the room was Princess Lyralee. She was even more beautiful in person than in the pictures. Her crystal skin glowed with gentle blue and purple lights. She wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid silver. When she moved, music seemed to follow her, but it was her eyes that caught Jake's attention. They were large and dark like deep pools of water, and despite what he had been told about Zephyrian emotional control, he could see something in those eyes, something that looked almost like loneliness. Princess Lyralee stepped forward with smooth, careful movements. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The lights on her skin pulsed in patterns that Jake had studied but never seen in person. "Welcome, humans of Earth," she said in perfect English, though her accent made every word sound like music. "I am Princess Lyralee, speaker for the Crystal Throne. The Emperor honors you with this meeting." Henry Walsh stepped forward and bowed exactly as Dr. Ross had taught them. "Your Highness, we are honored to be here. I am Henry Walsh, Chief Diplomat of Earth. This is Captain Lisa Chen, Commander Paul Stone, Dr. Betty Ross, and our language specialist, Jake Morrison." The princess's dark eyes moved across each of them, but Jake noticed she looked at him a little longer than the others. The crystal patterns on her skin shifted to a softer blue when their eyes met. He wondered what that meant. "Please, follow me to the negotiation chamber," Princess Lyralee said. She turned and walked deeper into the station. Her feet made no sound on the crystal floor. As they walked, Jake tried not to stare at everything around him. The walls showed moving pictures of Zephyrian history. He saw great crystal cities, space battles between ships that looked like flying jewels, and ceremonies where thousands of Zephyrians gathered in perfect silence. "Your station is beautiful," Captain Chen said, trying to make friendly conversation. "Thank you," the princess replied, but her tone stayed flat and cold. "It was built by my great-grandfather 2 centuries ago. Every crystal was placed by hand according to ancient harmony principles." Jake noticed something strange. When Princess Lyralee spoke to the group, her skin glowed with steady, controlled patterns. But when she glanced at him, the patterns became more complex. It was like she was trying to say something extra, but only to him. They entered a large round room with a crystal table in the center. The walls showed the stars outside, making it feel like they were floating in space. 6 Zephyrian officials were already seated at the table. They all looked at the humans with the same cold, measuring stares. "Please sit," Princess Lyralee said, gesturing to chairs that seemed to be grown from the same crystal as everything else. They were surprisingly comfortable. For the next 3 hours, the two groups talked about trade agreements. The Zephyrians wanted human art, music, and literature. They offered advanced medical technology and energy systems in return. But every time the humans showed excitement or enthusiasm, the Zephyrians became colder and more distant. "We are very happy about this opportunity," Dr. Ross said at one point, smiling widely. The Zephyrian officials exchanged looks. One of them, a tall male with silver-white crystal skin, spoke in their musical language to Princess Lyralee. Jake's translation equipment picked up most of it. "The humans show excessive emotional display. Are they mentally unstable?" Princess Lyralee answered in the same language. "Their emotions are strong, but they are not dangerous. This is simply their nature." Jake felt embarrassed. The Zephyrians thought human excitement was a sign of mental problems. He made a note to tell the team to stay calmer. During a break, Jake found himself alone with Princess Lyralee in a small side room filled with glowing plants. She was looking out a window at her homeworld below, and the lights on her skin were dimmer than before. "Your Highness," Jake said carefully, "may I ask you something?" She turned to look at him. You may speak, Jake Morrison. Are we doing something wrong? The other officials seem upset with us. Princess Lyrelei was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, your people express emotions very openly. This is difficult for my people to understand. Why? Jake asked. She looked around to make sure no one else was listening. Then she said something surprising. Because we have forgotten how. Before Jake could ask what she meant, Commander Stone walked into the room. Jake, they're starting the next session. During the afternoon meetings, things got worse. Commander Stone made a joke, and the Zephyrians thought he was being disrespectful. Dr. Ross tried to shake hands with one of the officials, and they acted like she had tried to attack them. By the end of the day, the mood in the room was very tense. We will continue tomorrow, Princess Lyrelei announced. Tonight you will stay in our guest quarters. We hope you will find them comfortable. The guest quarters were amazing. Each room was like being inside a giant geode, with crystal walls that glowed softly. Jake's room had a window that showed the whole planet below. But despite the beauty, he felt worried. The negotiations were not going well. That evening, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Princess Lyrelei had said. We have forgotten how. Forgotten how to do what? Express emotions? He decided to take a walk through the station to clear his head. The corridors were empty and quiet. Soft lights followed Jake as he walked, like the station knew where he was going even though he didn't. He found himself in a garden area filled with plants that glowed like tiny stars. Princess Lyrelei was there, sitting alone on a crystal bench. She wasn't wearing her formal robes anymore, just a simple dress that sparkled like water. The lights on her skin were different too, softer and more complex. I'm sorry, Jake said. I didn't know you were here. I'll go. No, she said. Please stay. I would like to talk with you. Jake sat down on the bench, careful to leave space between them. Are the negotiations going to fail? He asked. I don't know, she said honestly. My people find humans very loud. Not just your voices, but your emotions. You feel things so strongly and show them so openly. It frightens them. Frightens them? Why? Princess Lyrelei touched one of the glowing plants. When she did, it became brighter, pulsing with gentle light. These plants respond to emotions, she explained. Long ago, my people could make them glow like stars just by feeling joy. Now they barely flicker. Jake watched the plant pulse with her touch. What happened to your people's emotions? War, she said simply. Centuries ago, we were like you. We felt everything deeply. Love, hate, joy, anger. But our enemies used our emotions against us. They found ways to make us feel false feelings, to control us through our hearts. So we learned to hide our emotions, to bury them so deep that even we forgot they were there. Jake felt sad hearing this. That sounds lonely. Princess Lyrelei looked at him with surprise. Lonely? That is not a word we use often anymore. But don't you miss it? Don't you miss feeling things? She was quiet for a long time. The plant she was touching grew brighter, and Jake could see other plants in the garden starting to glow too. Yes, she whispered. I miss it very much. Especially when I see humans like you, who can smile and laugh and show joy without fear. I watch you during the meetings and I see how alive you are. How real. Jake felt something flutter in his chest. The way she was looking at him was different from how she looked at the others. There was something warm in her dark eyes, something that made the crystal patterns on her skin dance with new colors. Your Highness, he said, what you just told me about your people's emotions. Could you tell the others? Could you help them understand why we seem so different? She shook her head sadly. I cannot. To speak of emotions openly would be seen as weakness, as failure. I am already taking a risk by talking to you like this. Then maybe we need to find another way, Jake said. Maybe we need to show your people that emotions can be strength, not weakness. Princess Lyrelei looked at him with something that might have been hope. Around them, the garden was growing brighter as more plants responded to the feelings in the air. Perhaps, she said softly, perhaps there is a way. But then footsteps echoed in the corridor outside, and the moment was broken. Princess Lyrelei quickly stood up, her face returning to its cold, formal mask. The lights on her skin dimmed back to their controlled patterns. I must go, she said. Tomorrow will be a difficult day. As she walked away, Jake noticed that the plant stayed bright for several minutes after she left. Something was changing, even if neither of them fully understood what it was yet. The next morning brought disaster to the negotiations. Jake woke up to Captain Chen banging on his door, her face worried and angry. "Get dressed now," she said. "We have a serious problem." In the conference room, the human team sat on one side while 6 very upset Zephyrian officials sat on the other. Princess Lyrelai stood between them, her crystal skin flashing with rapid, agitated patterns that Jake had never seen before. "What happened?" Jake asked Henry. "Commander Stone tried to pat one of their officials on the shoulder," Henry said through gritted teeth. "Apparently, touching someone without permission is considered an act of war in their culture." Jake felt his stomach drop. He looked at Princess Lyrelai, who was speaking rapidly in Zephyrian to the angry officials. Her voice was still musical, but there was strain in it that made his chest hurt. The silver-skinned official from yesterday stood up. His crystal patterns were flashing red and orange, colors that Jake's training said meant extreme anger. "The human creatures show no respect," he said in accented English. "They touch without permission. They show violent emotions. They are dangerous and primitive. We should end these talks immediately." "No, please," Henry said, standing up quickly. It was a misunderstanding. In human culture, touching the shoulder is a sign of friendship and respect. "Your friendship is violence," another Zephyrian said coldly. "Your respect is assault. How can we trust beings who cannot control their basic impulses?" Princess Lyrelai tried to speak, but the silver-skinned official cut her off. "Princess, you have been too kind to these creatures. They will corrupt our young people with their emotional chaos. They will destroy everything we have built." Jake watched Princess Lyrelai's face as the official spoke. She looked calm on the surface, but her skin patterns were becoming more and more agitated. She was fighting to stay in control, and it was clearly very hard for her. The arguments went on for hours. Every time the humans tried to explain their culture, the Zephyrians saw it as proof that humans were dangerous. Every time the Zephyrians explained their rules, the humans felt like they were being treated like children. By afternoon, it was clear the talks were falling apart. Henry looked defeated. Captain Chen was angry. Dr. Ross kept trying to find cultural solutions that might work, but nothing helped. "We will take a break," Princess Lyrelai announced, her voice tight with stress. "We will meet again tomorrow morning for final discussions." Jake knew what that meant. Tomorrow, the Zephyrians would send the humans home, and the chance for peace between their peoples would be lost forever. That evening, Jake couldn't eat dinner. He walked the corridors of the station feeling helpless and sad. This was supposed to be the greatest moment in human history, and instead it was turning into the greatest failure. He found himself back in the glowing garden where he had talked with Princess Lyrelai the night before. But this time the plants were dim and gray. They reflected the sadness in the air. Jake sat on the crystal bench and put his head in his hands. He had spent years learning Zephyrian language and culture, but it hadn't been enough. He couldn't bridge the gap between two peoples who saw the world so differently. "Jake Morrison?" He looked up to see Princess Lyrelai approaching through the dim garden. She looked exhausted. The patterns on her skin were flickering weakly like candles about to go out. "Your Highness," he said, starting to stand up. "Please don't," she said, sitting down beside him on the bench. "I cannot bear any more formality tonight." They sat in silence for a while. Jake wanted to say something comforting, but he didn't know what words would help. "I failed," Princess Lyrelai said finally. "I was supposed to make this work, to bring our peoples together. Instead, I have made everything worse." "You didn't fail," Jake said. "You tried harder than anyone. You've been fighting for both sides all day, trying to help everyone understand each other." "It was not enough," she said. Her voice was so sad that some of the nearby plants began to glow with soft blue light. "Tomorrow the Council will vote to end all contact with humanity. They will say that your people are too dangerous, too unpredictable." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "We're not dangerous. We're just alive. We feel things. Is that really so wrong?" Princess Lyrelai looked at him with those deep, dark eyes. "No," she whispered. "It is not wrong. It is beautiful. I have watched you these past 2 days, and I have seen something I thought was lost forever." "What?" "Hope. Joy. Real feeling." Her skin patterns became brighter, more complex. "When you smile, when you get excited about an idea, when you care about something, you glow from the inside, not like our crystal skin, but with something deeper, something real." Jake felt his heart beating faster. The way she was looking at him made him feel warm and nervous at the same time. Princess, do you know what I do when I am alone? She asked. I practice human expressions in the mirror. I try to smile the way you smile. I try to understand what it feels like to show joy without fear. Jake was amazed. Really? Really? And sometimes, late at night, I imagine what it would be like to feel the way humans feel. To love openly, to show happiness without shame. Her patterns were getting brighter and more colorful. I imagine what it would be like to tell someone that they make my heart sing. Jake's mind was racing. He had been studying Zephyrian emotional expressions, and what he was seeing on her skin was unlike anything in his training materials. The colors were deeper, warmer, more alive. Princess, he said carefully, are you saying that you have feelings for someone? She turned to face him fully. I am saying that there is a human who has taught me to remember what it means to feel. A human who makes me want to break 1,000 years of tradition just to speak one word of truth. Jake's heart was pounding now. He reached into his memory for the Zephyrian words he had learned. He wanted to tell her that he understood, that he felt the same way. But Zephyrian had so many formal levels, so many ways to express different types of caring. He meant to say something simple and friendly, something like, I care about you too, or you are important to me. But in his nervousness, he mixed up the word levels. Instead of choosing the formal, distant terms, he used the deepest, most intimate words in the Zephyrian language. Nalthara Morden, he said. The moment the words left his mouth, Jake knew he had made a terrible mistake. Princess Lyrelai's entire body went perfectly still. Her crystal patterns froze in mid-pulse. Her eyes went very wide. In the silence that followed, Jake realized what he had actually said. Nalthara Morden meant, I adore you with the fire of my eternal soul. It was the most intimate declaration possible in Zephyrian culture. It was something that could only be said between life partners, and only after years of bonding. Jake felt panic rise in his throat. I'm sorry, he started to say in English. I didn't mean... I mixed up the words. I was trying to say... But Princess Lyrelai stood up suddenly, her crystal patterns now blazing with colors Jake had never seen before. Bright gold and silver and deep purple all swirled together on her skin like a beautiful storm. She looked down at him with tears in her dark eyes, the first tears he had seen from any Zephyrian. And then in a voice so soft he almost missed it, she whispered 2 words in English. At last. The garden around them exploded with light. Every plant, every flower, every crystal surface began to glow as if touched by the sun. The air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. Princess Lyrelai knelt down in front of Jake, taking his hands in hers. Her skin was warm and smooth like living marble. Do you know what you just said to me? She asked. Yes, Jake whispered. And I'm sorry if I... Don't be sorry, she said, her patterns now so bright they lit up the entire garden. I have been waiting for someone to say those words to me for over 50 years. I have been waiting for someone brave enough to speak love without fear. Jake stared at her in amazement. You've been waiting for me? I have been waiting for someone like you, she said. Someone who could see past our cold surface to the fire underneath. Someone who could love a frozen princess and help her remember how to be alive. Around them, the light from the plants was growing brighter and brighter. Jake could hear footsteps in the corridors outside as other beings came to investigate the strange glow. But this is impossible, Jake said. I'm human. You're Zephyrian royalty. Your people will never accept this. Princess Lyrelai smiled, the first real smile he had seen from her. It transformed her entire face, making her look younger and more alive. Perhaps, she said, but for the first time in my life, I don't care what they think. You have given me something more precious than their approval. What? The courage to feel. The bright glow from the garden had attracted attention. Jake and Princess Lyrelai could hear voices in the corridors getting closer. She quickly stood up and touched the walls around them. The plants dimmed back to their normal soft light. We must be careful, she whispered to Jake. If anyone learns about this, it could destroy everything. Learns about what? Jake asked. His heart was still racing from her words. About us, about what we feel for each other. Her crystal patterns had returned to their controlled state, but Jake could see little flickers of color underneath, like flames hiding behind glass. To my people, love between different species is forbidden, especially between a royal and an outsider. Before Jake could respond, footsteps entered the garden. Dr. Ross appeared looking worried. Jake, there you are, she said. Captain Chen has been looking for you. We're having an emergency meeting about tomorrow's negotiations. She glanced at Princess leerily and bowed slightly. Your Highness. Dr. Ross, the princess replied with perfect formal politeness. I was just explaining to Mr. Morrison some details about our garden plants. They respond to emotional energy in ways that humans might find interesting. That's fascinating, Dr. Ross said. Jake, we really do need you at this meeting. Jake looked at Princess Lyrelei. Her face showed nothing, but her dark eyes seemed to be pleading with him to be careful. Of course, Jake said. Thank you for the explanation, Your Highness. It was very educational. As they walked back through the corridors, Dr. Ross looked at Jake with curious eyes. You seem different, she said. More? I don't know. More confident somehow. Jake tried to act normal, but inside his mind was spinning. Princess Lyrelei loved him. An alien princess, beautiful and intelligent and kind, actually loved him. It felt like something out of a dream. The emergency meeting was in Captain Chen's quarters. The whole human team was there, looking tired and discouraged. All right, Henry said as Jake sat down. Let's be honest. These negotiations are a disaster. Tomorrow they're going to send us home, and it's going to be decades before humanity gets another chance like this. Maybe that's for the best, Commander Stone said bitterly. These people don't want to understand us. They think we're violent animals. They're not all like that, Jake said quickly. Some of them want to understand. They're just afraid. Captain Chen looked at him sharply. Afraid of what? Jake thought about what Princess Lyrelei had told him about Zephyrian history. About how they had been hurt by their emotions and learned to hide them. Afraid of feeling things, he said. Their ancestors were betrayed because they trusted their emotions. So they learned to bury their feelings so deep that they almost forgot they had them. How do you know this? Dr. Ross asked. Jake felt heat rise in his face. I've been studying their culture very carefully. And I think maybe Princess Lyrelei isn't as cold as she pretends to be. Henry frowned. Jake, please tell me you haven't been getting personally involved with the Zephyrian princess. No, Jake said quickly. I just think she's trying to help us and her own people are making it difficult for her. That wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Jake felt guilty about hiding his feelings, but he understood why Princess Lyrelei had asked him to be careful. The meeting went on for another hour, but they couldn't find any solutions. Finally, everyone agreed to get some sleep and hope for a miracle in the morning. But Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Princess Lyrelei, about the way her skin had glowed when he accidentally told her he loved her, about the tears in her eyes when she whispered at last. Around midnight, there was a soft knock on his door. Jake opened it to find a small crystal device on the floor outside. When he picked it up, it projected Princess Lyrelei's image into his room. Jake, her recorded voice said, if you are receiving this, it means you are alone. Please come to the observation deck on level 7. I have something important to show you. But be very careful not to be seen. Jake's heart started beating faster. He put on his clothes and carefully made his way through the dark corridors of the station. Level 7 was higher up than he had been before. The observation deck was a large room with transparent walls that showed the stars and the planet below. Princess Lyrelei was waiting for him, silhouetted against the starlight. She had changed out of her formal robes into something simpler. In the soft light, she looked younger and more vulnerable. Thank you for coming, she said as he approached. I wasn't sure you would. Of course I came, Jake said. After what happened in the garden. How could I not? She smiled, that real smile that made her whole face light up. There is something I need to tell you. Something about my people that will help you understand why tomorrow's meeting is so important. She touched a control panel, and the transparent walls became a screen showing images of Zephyrian history. Long ago, we were not like we are now, she said. We were passionate, emotional, creative. We built beautiful cities, created wonderful art, loved deeply and openly. The images showed Zephyrians dancing, laughing, embracing each other. Their crystal skin blazed with brilliant colors as they celebrated life together. What changed? Jake asked. The shattering, Princess Lyrelei said. The images shifted to show war and destruction. Another species, the Vexhi, discovered our weakness. They learned that they could control our emotions from a distance. They made us feel false love for them, false anger toward each other. They turned us into puppets. Jake watched in horror as the images showed Zephyrians fighting each other. Their crystal patterns manipulated by unseen enemies. For 300 years we were slaves, she continued. The Vexhi used our own emotions against us. They made parents betray children. Lovers destroy each other, friends become enemies. Nearly half our population died before we found a way to fight back. How did you escape? We learned to feel nothing, she said sadly. We built mental barriers around our hearts. We created laws against emotional expression. We taught our children that feelings were dangerous, that love was weakness. The images showed modern Zephyrian society, cold, controlled, emotionless. It worked. The Vexhi couldn't control beings who felt nothing, but we lost something precious in the process. We lost our souls. Jake felt tears in his eyes. That's horrible. But why are you telling me this? Princess Lyralee turned to face him fully. Because you have shown me something I thought was lost forever. You have shown me that it's possible to feel deeply without losing control. Your people have emotions as strong as ours once were, but you don't let them destroy you. We try not to, Jake said, though we don't always succeed. But you try, she said, stepping closer to him. And that gives me hope. Hope that maybe my people can learn to feel again without fear. Jake felt his heart racing as she moved closer. The patterns on her skin were shifting to those beautiful warm colors again. There's something else, she said softly. The reason I brought you here. Tomorrow there will be a vote about whether to continue negotiations with humanity. The council is split. Some want to end all contact. Others are curious about your people. What do you want? Jake asked. I want to show them what I have learned from you, she said. I want to show them that emotions can be strength, not weakness. But I need your help. How? She took his hands in hers. There is an old Zephyrian ceremony called the heart sharing. It allows two beings to feel each other's emotions directly. It hasn't been performed in over 500 years because it's considered too dangerous. Jake felt a chill of fear. Dangerous how? If one person's emotions are too strong, they can overwhelm the other person's mind. It's how the Vexhi first learned to control us. She squeezed his hands. But I believe that your emotions are different, clean, pure. I believe that if the council could feel what you feel, they would understand that humans are not dangerous. You want me to share my emotions with your entire council? Jake asked, amazed. I want you to show them what love really is, she said. Not the twisted false love the Vexhi created, but real love. The kind that makes people stronger, not weaker. Jake stared at her. That's incredibly dangerous for both of us. If it goes wrong, we will both die, she said simply. But if it goes right, we could change everything. We could bring our peoples together. We could give my people permission to feel again. Jake looked out at the stars through the transparent walls. He thought about humanity's future, about the chance for peace between species, about the woman standing in front of him whose love had already changed his life. When? He asked. Princess Lyralee smiled and her crystal patterns blazed with joy. Tomorrow during the final negotiations, in front of everyone. And if they try to stop us, then we face whatever comes together, she said, because some things are worth any risk. Jake nodded, feeling more frightened and more determined than he had ever felt in his life. Then let's show them what human love really looks like. The final day of negotiations began with dark clouds hanging over everything. Jake woke up early, his stomach tight with nerves. Today, he and Princess Lyralee would either change history or die trying. At breakfast, the human team was quiet and grim. Henry Walsh looked like he had aged 10 years overnight. Captain Chen kept checking her watch, counting down the hours until their failure would be complete. Remember, Henry said as they prepared to enter the conference room, whatever happens today, we represent all of humanity. Let's try to end this with dignity. Jake nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. In a few hours, he would be sharing his deepest emotions with beings who had spent centuries learning to fear such feelings. He touched the small crystal device Princess Lyralee had given him, the key to the heart-sharing ceremony. The conference room felt different today. More Zephyrian officials were present, including several Jake had never seen before. They sat in perfect stillness, their crystal skin showing only the most controlled patterns. At the head of the table sat an ancient Zephyrian whose skin was almost pure white. This had to be the High Chancellor, the one who would make the final decision. Princess Lyralee entered last, wearing ceremonial robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. She took her place at the table without looking at Jake, but he saw the small flash of color on her skin, a signal that she was ready. Honored beings, the High Chancellor said in a voice like distant thunder. "We gather today to conclude these negotiations. After careful consideration, the Council has decided that contact between our species is too dangerous to continue." Henry stood up quickly. "Your Excellency, please reconsider. Yes, we are different, but our differences could be strengths if we work together. Your emotions are chaos," the silver-skinned official from before said coldly. "Yesterday, one of your people attempted physical assault. Today, you ask us to trust you further? Impossible. That was not assault," Dr. Ross protested. "That was friendship." "In our culture, your culture is violence," another Zephyrian interrupted. "Your feelings are weapons. We have learned this lesson before at great cost." Jake felt anger rising in his chest as the Zephyrians dismissed humanity so easily. But then he caught Princess Lyrelai's eye and she gave him the smallest nod. It was time. "Your Excellency," Princess Lyrelai said, standing gracefully. "Before we end these negotiations, I request permission to perform an ancient ceremony. The heart-sharing as described in the texts of Old Harmony." The room fell completely silent. Several Zephyrian officials looked shocked. The High Chancellor's white crystal skin flickered with surprise. "Princess," he said slowly, "the heart-sharing has been forbidden for centuries. It is far too dangerous." "I understand the risks," she replied calmly, "but I believe it is the only way to truly understand these beings. Words have failed us. Logic has failed us. Perhaps it is time to try wisdom. The ceremony requires a willing participant from both species," the High Chancellor said. "No human would be foolish enough to—" "I volunteer," Jake said, standing up. The Zephyrians stared at him in amazement. The human team looked confused and worried. "Jake, what are you doing?" Captain Chen whispered. "Something that should have been done from the beginning," Jake said. "Your Excellency, Princess Lyrelai is right. We've been trying to understand each other with our minds, but understanding comes from the heart. If you want to know what humans really are, if you want to know whether our emotions are dangerous or beautiful, then look into my heart and see for yourself." The High Chancellor studied Jake for a long moment. "Human, do you understand what you are offering? The heart-sharing will expose every feeling you have ever had, every fear, every desire, every moment of pain or joy. You will have no privacy, no protection. And if your emotions are too chaotic, they could destroy your mind and the mind of any Zephyrian who shares them." Jake felt his hands shaking, but he kept his voice steady. "I understand. But I also understand that some things are worth any risk. The chance for peace between our peoples is one of those things." Henry grabbed Jake's arm. "Are you insane? You don't know what this ceremony will do to you." "I know what not doing it will do," Jake replied. "It will mean the end of any hope for our species to be friends. It will mean that fear wins over love." Princess Lyrelai stepped forward. "High Chancellor, as the Emperor's daughter and heir to the Crystal Throne, I formally request permission to perform this ceremony." The human has given his consent freely. The High Chancellor looked around the room at the other Zephyrian officials. Jake could see them communicating through rapid skin patterns, an argument conducted in light and color. Finally, the High Chancellor nodded slowly. "Very well. But know this. If either of you dies during the ceremony, the responsibility is yours alone. And if the human's emotions prove dangerous, we will end all contact with his species forever." "Understood," Princess Lyrelai said. The Zephyrians quickly rearranged the room, creating a circle with Jake and Princess Lyrelai in the center. Ancient crystal devices were brought out and placed around them. The lights in the room dimmed until only the glow from the crystals remained. "Jake," Princess Lyrelai said softly as they stood facing each other in the circle. "Once this begins, there will be no going back. Are you certain?" Jake looked into her dark eyes and saw his own fear reflected there. But he also saw love, hope, and courage. "I'm certain," he said. "I love you, Lyrelai. If sharing that love can help our peoples understand each other, then it's the most important thing I'll ever do." She smiled, and her crystal patterns blazed with joy. "I love you too, Jake Morrison of Earth. Now let us show them what love really means." Princess Lyrelai activated the crystal devices with a touch. Immediately, the air in the circle began to shimmer. Jake felt a strange tingling sensation, as if electricity was dancing across his skin. "Open your mind," Princess Lyrelai said. "Open your heart. Let them see who you really are." Jake closed his eyes and stopped trying to control his feelings. He let every emotion flow freely. His love for Princess Lyrelai, His hope for peace, his fear of failure, his joy at meeting her, his determination to protect both their peoples. The connection hit him like lightning. Suddenly he could feel Princess Lyrale's emotions mixing with his own. Her love for him was like warm sunlight. Her fear was like cold rain. Her hope was like music made of light. But it wasn't just her emotions he felt. Through the heart-sharing ceremony, every Zephyrian in the room was experiencing what Jake felt. He could sense their shock, their amazement, their fear. They had expected chaos. They had expected the violent, destructive emotions their ancestors had suffered under. Instead, they found something completely different. Jake's love for Princess Lyrale wasn't possessive or controlling. It was generous and selfless. He wanted her to be happy, even if it meant sacrificing his own happiness. His courage wasn't reckless, it was careful and thoughtful, willing to take risks only to protect others. Even his fear was different from what they expected. He wasn't afraid of them or of their power. He was afraid of failing them, of not being worthy of their trust. Through the connection, Jake felt the Zephyrians' amazement growing. They had forgotten that emotions could be beautiful. They had forgotten that love could make someone stronger instead of weaker. And then something unexpected happened. Princess Lyrale's emotions began to change the other Zephyrians. Her joy at feeling love again, her hope for the future, her courage to break tradition, all of it flowed through the heart-sharing connection to every Zephyrian in the room. One by one, Jake felt their emotional barriers beginning to crack. Centuries of suppressed feelings started to surface. They remembered what it felt like to care about someone. They remembered what it felt like to hope. The High Chancellor gasped, his white crystal skin suddenly blazing with colors Jake had never seen before. "Impossible," he whispered. "These emotions, they're not weapons. They're gifts." Around the room, other Zephyrians were beginning to glow as their own suppressed emotions awakened. Some were crying, the first tears their people had shed in centuries. Others were smiling, their faces transformed by remembered joy. But the silver-skinned official who had opposed the humans from the beginning stood up angrily. "No!" he shouted. "This is exactly what the Vexhai did to us. They're using emotions to control us." Jake felt the man's fear and anger through the connection. But instead of responding with anger, Jake opened his heart even wider. He showed the official his memories, growing up on Earth, learning about other cultures, choosing to become a translator because he wanted to help different peoples understand each other. The official staggered as he felt Jake's genuine desire for peace. This wasn't manipulation or control. This was simply one person sharing his truth with another. "I don't want to control you," Jake said aloud, his voice echoing strangely in the crystal chamber. "I want to be your friend. I want our peoples to learn from each other, to help each other, to grow together. That's what love really is, not taking from someone but giving to them." Princess Lyrale's hand found his in the center of the circle. The moment they touched, the heart-sharing connection exploded outward, reaching not just the Zephyrians in the room but somehow touching minds across the entire station. Jake felt hundreds, then thousands of Zephyrian hearts,